welcome back to Basic Math. Let's look at decimal addition and subtraction. So, this is really nice stuff. Honestly, you're probably using a calculator for most of this, and that's okay. I really don't have any problem with people doing that. It makes sense. Calculators really simplify our lives, but we would like to have some basic idea of how this all works, just in case you don't happen to have a calculator handy. So, decimal addition and subtraction is really straightforward. If you can add and subtract regular numbers without decimals, you can add and subtract decimals just fine. Here's why. We're going to do three things. First, we're going to line up the decimal points. Okay, pretty straightforward. Make sure that the decimal points line up, and then you're all set. Do you need any placeholder zeros? Okay, and I'll talk about what that means here in just a second. And finally, just add or subtract like you would with any regular addition or subtraction problem. So let's look at this one. I said let's add 3.7 to 2.59. So you can see I wrote it down here. I lined up my decimal points. So importantly, notice that I have an empty space here, and that's okay. I don't need the numbers to line up perfectly. I need those decimal points to line up because that'll keep all my places lined up with each other. So this is where the placeholder zeros come into play. A lot of times it's easier to put a 0 here just to hold that place than it is to leave it empty. Now remember, 0 is nothing, so having the empty space and having 0 is really the same thing, but it just makes it a little bit easier to work with. And then I just go straight down the line and add, just like a regular problem. 0 and 9 is 9. 7 and 5 makes 12, so I carry a 1. 1 and 3 is 4, and 2 is 6, and then I just bring my decimal point straight down. Everything lines up. This is going to be the shortest video you've ever had. So, there you go. That's all there is to addition. If you can add regular numbers, you can add these. Let's look at an example, a kind of goofy example with some subtraction. Alright, so now we're ready to try a subtraction problem. I'm just going to jump in and do one that's kind of weird and a little bit messy, figuring that the easier stuff is just that, easier. So let's look at this one. 12 minus 7.321. The first thing we have to know here is, where is the decimal point in 12, right? The directions I gave you just a minute ago said, line up those decimal points. Well, there isn't a decimal point here. So here's the trick. If there isn't a decimal point, it's always at the end of the number. So this is 12 decimal point. And so you can see I wrote that down here. I have 12 with a decimal point. I lined up my decimal points, and then I filled in zeros to hold those places. All right, so this is subtraction, which makes it a little bit weirder because now we have to worry about borrowing, right? Borrowing if we don't have enough to do the subtraction. 0 minus 1 doesn't work. I can't borrow from 0 or from 0. I can't borrow until I get over to this 2. The easiest way to do this is to say, I'm not borrowing from, since I can't borrow from that next spot, I'm going to borrow from 200 and make it 199, right? 1 less than 200. And then I can bring my 1 over here to that and make that a 10. And now we just go down the line and subtract. 10 minus 1 is 9. 9 minus 2 is 7. 9 minus 3 is 6. Here's my decimal point. And then I can't do 1 minus 7, but I do have 11 minus 7, which is just 4. And there we go, 4.679. So that's the basics of adding and subtracting with decimals. Honestly, you're going to use a calculator, I understand, but hopefully we understand what it looks like and can have an idea of what we're looking for sometimes when we're doing this. But good luck, and thanks.